Hey everyone, welcome to another exciting week of our Mission Matters Twitter Spaces. Once a week, we put together a dialogue where we introduce a roundtable, coordinate an interview, and introduce our Mission Matters community and create dialogues like this. So, Mission Matters, for those of you tuning in or aren't familiar with us, we are a multimedia platform focused on the needs of entrepreneurs, executives, experts. We amplify their stories, and the way that we go about doing this is through our media platform on the front end. But also behind the scenes, we are also a book publishing company. We're a podcast agency, a PR agency, and a digital marketing agency. So we're able to help people amplify their stories and help them accomplish their missions ultimately. And so with this, we have many of our podcasters are book publishing authors that are with us, some of our PR clients as well. And so what we'll do is just go around the room and have everyone introduce themselves. Today's topic, for those of you tuning in, is adapting to current events. There's a lot happening globally right now in terms of technology, economic factors across the board, from banking failures from, Silicon Valley Bank. One day they're completely fine. 3 days later, they're completely bankrupt, losing, 200 billion or whatever it was under management, not to mention several other banks. There's a lot of AI technologies like Chat GPT3 that just came out, several months ago. They already have Chat GPT4, which is launched, and AI is now, front and center when it comes to this whole tech revolution or evolution that we're going through. There's a lot of political factors, economic factors, and there's so many industries and companies that are being impacted by this. And so we wanted to create a dialogue, bring in all these different industries of folks that, come from a lot of these different backgrounds and share their insights on what's happening with them, what they're noticing, what they're seeing, and how they're adapting to the times. So with that, Adam, feel free to introduce the rest of our panelists, and why don't we get this underway?
Awesome. And thank you, Chirag. And so I'll get it kicked off. So just to bring everybody out. So Mher, if you want to start maybe with an introduction on yourself and what you do.
Yeah, I'm Mher Vartanian from Philadelphia. And I'm a commercial real estate broker and investor. So, I had the privilege of being on in one of those. I think the next book that's coming out from Mission Matters. We just had our first podcast episode come out about 3 weeks ago. So it's been cool going through all this, and I've listened to a few of the spaces, so these are cool. And as far as what we're here to talk about today, I mean, the commercial real estate side of the world has, I think, it's minute by minute for us. We're directly tied to treasuries and interest rates, and since the summer of 2022, when rates started picking up, I mean, it's been difficult conversation after difficult conversation. We've probably closed 30 deals since then on a commercial level. Average transaction size is about $5 million. But, while you're under contract, and, these are 60 to 90 day long periods to buy these commercial assets, rates are rising 2 or maybe 3 times during that timeline. And every time rates rise to 50 basis points, people are losing about 5 to 8% of their asset value while under contract. So if you're going under contract at, let's just say $1 million, I mean, every 50 basis points, you're tearing off about 70 to 75 to $125,000 worth of value in real time. And that's just, it's no one's, it's something you can't control. We all knew it was coming. And so it's kind of setting expectations with clients, setting expectations with buyers and sellers. I mean, you're having very difficult conversations every step of the way. And, we're doing this 10, 15, 20 times a day. And, it's tolling on everyone involved, but it's all about keeping everything moving forward and trying to find ways around it. And I think that's the key here, is how to be creative in these changing environments.
Awesome. And we're going to circle back to this, Mher. And thank you for the intro. I want to go around the room first, get everyone else in. And then I got some questions on how you're dealing with that. So let's get Joe up next. Joe, if you want to introduce yourself, please.
Hey guys, I'm Joe Glazer. I was part of the very first book. I don't even remember what the topic was at this point.
You're old school. Come on.
Marketing, maybe? I really don't remember, but I know I liked it and was very happy and proud to be a part of it. My background has pretty much been in 2 different realms forever. I have been in construction, and much before that, I was in insurance world, health insurance, life insurance. Had a insurance brokerage company for a while in Northern California, and then general construction company, which I continue to do, along with other things that I've kind of got my hands in right now, some crypto stuff, and lost a lot of money in crypto since I'm just learning my way around that. So, made money, lost money, but yeah, that's my background.
Awesome.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Joe. Rodrigo, you're up next.
Hey everybody, I'm Rodrigo Lohaio. I've been in the technology industry for about 3 decades. I paid my dues in the corporate world, spending about 3 decades in the corporate world, working my way up to the C-level executives and leaving last year as the CIO of a large public company, and decided last year to reinvent myself and really start in the startup world and just dipping my toes into the world of technology startups focused on cybersecurity, and with the help of Adam and others here, launching my podcast. And I'm also trying at the same time do my technology and my business, but also my passion for cycling. I've also started a nonprofit around the cycling and the fitness for life. So I have many different interests, and really looking forward to this conversation today. The topic is really a topic of very high interest to me, of adaptability, because I think we have to reinvent ourselves every day, every year. We have to reinvent ourselves just to keep up. As I always say, standing still is actually going backwards.
Awesome. And thank you, Rodrigo. I'm also interested to hear your vantage point of what's going on in the world right now. So glad to see you made it. And let's get Dave involved over here. Dave, welcome.
Thank you. So first, before anything else, Rodrigo, I want to talk to you about the cycling stuff, because I'm a former semi-pro bike racer and I live on bicycles. So in fact, I just got off Zwift a little while ago. But that aside, so Dave Reich, I'm based out of Boston. What I do every day is I'm a customer success manager for IBM in data and AI. So everything we're talking about with AI and Chat GPT, is it going to take over people's jobs, displace people, and things like that? There's a lot of perception about AI because people don't quite understand it. And I get it a lot more from the geek perspective. I've been doing it for a really long time because I used to work on speech recognition and natural language understanding, let alone AI and predictive kind of things using artificial intelligence. And just to round things out, I'm also on the side a professional magician, and I merge my business stuff with my performance stuff. So I kind of look at a lot of things differently. So when we talk about the current events, I'm looking at a lot of the things that I know, and looking basically underneath the surface. Okay. Because let's face it, I'm a computer scientist and a magician. I'm the world's biggest skeptic. So, so I like looking at a lot of things, a little bit differently. So, don't panic, but be informed. And that's kind of, there you go.
That's awesome. Thank you. This is going to be a good conversation. And just for context, because I know everybody on this call I've possibly interviewed and we've worked with directly, this is not a podcast interview. So I'm going to ask some questions. I'm going to throw some stuff out there. I'm going to stir the pot, but this is very much interactive. Everybody ask each other questions, like pick each other's brain. Like that's what this is all about. This is a true round table. So the first part's a little formal just to make sure we get everything everybody introduced, but I'll just kick it off with something that Mher said earlier. And I was thinking about this and I was having a conversation about it. And maybe we'll start on this end of it and then move wherever we want to move in the conversation. But Mher, I was thinking about it today, man. And actually the last couple of days I'm with the banks, what's going on with them. And I was talking to a fellow person that he's still currently in wealth management. And I was like, man, like having those client conversations right now must be so tricky, whether you're in lending, whether you're an advisor, whether you're in like how are you handling that? I'm just so interested to hear your vantage point, because when I was in finance, I wasn't going through quite the exact environment.
On our end, I mean, we had our first experience with this when COVID first hit, and when the world shut down and transactions still had to get done. That's what a lot of, and if you owned a multi-million-dollar shopping center or office building and your tenants weren't coming in, no one was paying rent. Everyone thought that's when 08 2.0 was going to happen. So we got the first version of that then. For this time around, when rates are rising, it's like you just gotta be rational, man. At the end of the day, this is a numbers game, right? It's a simple math equation. Like you have to cover a certain like debt to income ratio, and then if the rates are X and you're selling your property at Z, I mean, you got to move with it. And you have to keep telling everyone it's not going to stop. The Fed's very transparent of what they're going to do, and just kind of getting that message across is, I mean, and having people make rational decisions. It's not easy, especially when millions of dollars are on the line. You guys know, it from wealth management. Money is like one of the first things people start getting irrational about, and just making sure everyone's on board and having that initial conversation. And you are, what I found to do, sometimes you just got to have them sleep on it, to have them understand it. It wasn't a mystery of what was happening, and especially when you're in this world, everyone knows the power of inflation and what it can do. A lot of the guys that we work with, they're the ones that talk about the 70s all the time, and you kind of have to tail off to that a little bit and remind them how that went down. And it's not going to be the same, hopefully, but it's setting expectations and kind of putting into context is key here.
Anyone else? I mean, feel free to
Yeah.
chime in
Hey,
with
Mher,
questions, whatever.
Mher, this is Joe Glazer. I just looked at your profile and I, realized you're commercial real estate. And I'm actually curious what you think the future of commercial real estate is going to be. I think there's hard days ahead for that. I mean, just after COVID, especially, no one's going, there's not going to be a Sixth Avenue anymore, right? Where you have all kinds of office space and people going into work anymore. People are working from home more and more and, not going in. And I mean, what's that doing to your industry?
We have this conversation all the time because it's on everyone's mind. Just to put it in context, in the next 12 months, $1 trillion worth of debt is going to be coming due. And people who have been buying real estate over the last 3 years at floating rate debt or underwriting, a 5 cap, 6 cap exit, and their entire business model was built off of jacking up multifamily rents every year by $200. Unsustainable business models. They're gonna be in a lot of pain. I mean, it is what it is. Every building is a business, and you have to operate it like a business. And everyone here has operated multiple businesses at one point. We know when you're taking the lifeblood out of your business, your main sales generator, what that's going to do. You can't forecast crazy numbers and tell people to invest based off of that. And I even sold some of those buildings. I mean, I sold 5 cap apartment buildings where if they're going to replace a toilet for a tenant, they're going to have to come out of pocket for those. It didn't make sense, but I mean, that's what was happening in the asset values. I mean, some people are going to be in pain, but then there's going to be a lot of guys out there who didn't over leverage, and that's the key. They're going to be able to just to get through this wave like they have the last 20, 30 years of
So more or less, you
downturn.
seem pretty optimistic.
Just a normal cycle. I mean, everyone has, before COVID, it was the death of retail. No one
So you
was
see
going to
this
go
as
shopping.
normal? Okay.
I see this, yeah. I mean,
Wow.
office, I think suburban office is going to come back strong. From what I'm seeing, people like working in collectives. I mean, again, entrepreneurs get this more, right, than anyone. We like our staff to be together.
Question with that, because, working for a large company, but also I work with a lot of startups. And what I'm finding is, the company that I work for, as well as a lot of them, because I'm in the Boston area, we got Google around, we got Microsoft, we got Facebook, plus we have a lot of the biotech that are well established, as well as the startups. And it seems like nobody, and when I say nobody, I'm overstating a little bit, but most people are not going back to the office, and they're not going back on any sort of regular cadence, maybe 2 or 3 days a week tops. And what I'm wondering is, I mean, look, I'll give you a perfect example. IBM, we had a large lab facility in Littleton, Massachusetts, and the lease was coming due and all this wonderful stuff. And they said, you know what? We are going to redo a bunch of floors in a different office space. And we essentially downsized, closed this big honking lab with our own cafeteria and things like that. And people are coming and going, and it's almost like a startup-y co-working space. And I'm seeing a lot of that, downsizing. And I'm wondering what's going to happen to all of these companies that are all over the place that have bought large office space, built this stuff out, put technology infrastructure in, and their people are not using it, and they're just paying the overhead on it.
Yeah, that was going to be my kind of follow-up was, all those physical areas, what happens to them? I said Sixth Avenue, but, Boston, Silicon Valley, all those areas that have places where employees aren't going to be coming back.
I mean, look, I don't even mind
A lot of
Boston.
places just build
I
apartments.
don't mind driving in Boston anymore because the traffic isn't there. It was
Exactly.
great.
You see it in LA
I don't
too.
mind it.
Yeah.
In
Yeah, I
Philadelphia
mean,
right now, I see two brand new construction office buildings, Class A, being built. One of them is from Chubb. They're building a new headquarters right next to the Comcast towers, and then there's another building right across the street that they just finished. They're going to be able to occupy by the end of summer, early fall, and those are being built throughout COVID. And who's lending on those deals is what you have to think about. And it's not like these banks are going to do multi-million dollar, hundreds of millions of dollars worth of lending on a project that's going to fail. I think on the IBM side, aren't you guys seeing some disconnect with this work from home or hybrid model? Do you see inefficiencies?
I see. So let me back up. A lot of it, I think, has to do with culture. All right,
Mm-hmm.
depending on the company. Okay, and again, I can only give you my firsthand experience from IBM. We're all over the place. All of my colleagues. I mean, there's two other people in Boston, and we're all over the country, and a bunch of people all over the world. We're used to Zoom and WebEx, and we kind of didn't miss a beat when COVID happened, and we couldn't go to the office. There's a but at the same time, we talk about current events. When I first started, we had a few major labs. We had a lab in Boca Raton, Florida. We had a lab in North Carolina. We had our research facility in New York. And those are the main employment places. But given where people wanted to live and the ability to work more remotely, that just became a little bit more normal in the culture. And now, with a lot more people saying, I don't have to go to the office, we've been working for years on how do you maintain that collaboration, that casual dialogue that you might see three people in the cafeteria and say, hey, I'm working on this. Any of you guys have seen this before? And, I think a lot of it depends on the culture, where some of it you have to come into the office and collaborate. All right. But a lot of it I'm finding, not happening. And especially in the tech industry where we have tons and tons of people. And I've been wondering what's going to happen to all of this commercial space. I mean, I drive around even the suburbs of Boston. I see lots of buildings for Oracle and SAP and analog device,
Yeah.
and the parking lots are empty even now. And that's what I'm kind of wondering about.
Yeah. And you can't convert it all to apartments, right?
Let me step in here a little bit because we normally keep these to an hour, and I just want to make sure that we hit a bunch of topics, but we might have to do a whole one on that topic
Yeah.
because I want to know it too. This might be another panel, Mayor. We might want to get a couple of your guys on here. We can do a whole nother panel on this one, but this is interesting. So I'm not switching the topic because it's not interesting, but I do want to make sure we get some other things involved because we don't talk about Chat GPT or if we don't talk about AI, Chirag is going to kill me because that's what he wants to talk about. So,
thank you.
so who wants to just, I'm not even going to ask the question. I just threw that out as a theme. Who wants to kick it off?
When do the robots take over?
There you go, Joe.
Oh, don't you know that they already took over?
Hang on a second. I am a robot.
Exactly.
I knew
I mean,
it, Dave. I knew it.
you don't know if any of us is really on this side, or we just connected the Whisper API to ChatGPT, and we're just sitting and watching TV while we let our AI do the work for us.
I'm going to tell you, I've been working in AI for, oh my goodness, got to be 25 years now in speech recognition, doing dictation, natural language understanding into what we're doing now. And, really what it is, it's a bunch of training data and it's statistical models and it's gluing data back together in different ways without people having to type it in. But, one of the things that people are scared of is the biggest thing I'm not scared of is it's not creative. If I ask it to write a piece of code that does something, it's not writing the code. It's some big honking data system somewhere that's finding it a lot quicker based on the natural language understanding of what I asked it to do, the semantic interpretation of what I asked it to do.
Through statistical
Put in.
models. Through a statistical model,
Yeah.
right? Not through
Part,
right.
yeah.
Right.
And it's gluing it together in different models. And some of the things, some of the things are being put together in ways that we didn't understand. And I'll give you a real brief example, okay? Because it's a project I worked on a while back. So I was working on an AI project for drug interactions. So if a physician wants to prescribe a drug, but the patient already is taking something else, how do they know the drug is not going to interact? And, there's a lot of knowledge there, and the doctors study tons. But what something like an AI system can do that a doctor can't is it sees all of the ingredients, even the inactive ones. Okay. And there might be some inactive ingredient in drug A that causes an upset stomach when you add some inactive ingredient in drug B. Okay. Or it might cause an allergic reaction. And that's something that an AI, a quote unquote AI system can dig into and find that information a lot quicker than a human being might be able to. That's wonderful stuff. But asking it to be creative and come up with new drugs to try and fix something, that's a long ways off, if ever.
How far away are we from having some kind of AI protocol, I guess, that's able to build itself, improve itself, and kind of do what you're saying, where you can say, hey, Chat GPT4, create a drug that, create an antibiotic that there's, no resistance to. How far away are we from that?
Well, when you think about something that learns from itself, right now, the best we're doing is machine learning, which is really tons of data is coming in, and human beings need to bootstrap systems that classify the data and build ontologies around it. And it needs to go through huge amounts of human directed, then supervised, then semi supervised learning before we can even think about, something that might be unsupervised learning. And the unsupervised learning, that's where it gets a little bit dangerous. But right now, we're a huge ways off. In my opinion, Chat GPT, it's a bright, shiny thing. It's cool. It's neat. It's basically a natural language Google search engine right now, in my opinion.
So
I
when
think
people talk about like the singularity, that's just hype and trying to scare people to get attention. We're really not close to anything. Like you said, some
I think
unsupervised learning.
realistically, I think we're a long ways off. I think at the end of the day, and remember what I said, okay? I'm a magician and a technologist. I'm a skeptic. All right.
Yeah, me
Okay.
too. Yeah, me
So,
too. Yeah.
so. Adam, mark your calendar. We are a decade away.
yeah, there you go. Oh yeah. Easy.
So let's book the calendar to have a repeat of this conversation about a decade away, because I think in a decade's time, we'll be very close to that singularity that we are talking about, because, technology, computers, processing power continues to evolve and increase at an exponential pace. And
Yes.
it's very difficult for any of us to really comprehend what exponential growth really means. I think we are very close to the point where, you talked about Chat GPT, let's say Chat GPT 10 or 12 or 15. We're really going to experience exponential growth when Chat GPT 7 is now actively building Chat GPT 8. And
Yeah.
that's where the
That's what
singularity
I'm
will
talking
start
about.
will start
Yeah.
happening, is exactly that. Right now, ChatGPT is every version of ChatGPT is still limited by the humans feeding it. But I think we're very close, as I say, within 5 to 10 years of actually our AI's model, building AI's model. And then when we start that, it's really uncontrollable. And that's where we will see the singularity.
That's
What worries me
That's
is
the
when,
coolest thing I heard all week.
when we have robots, right, in an assembly line like we do now that, build cars, and that puts physical labor out of the marketplace. What I'm worried about is when AI is able to take my job, and take like middle management's job, take jobs that require some kind of like creative thinking, or, like a builder, right? You need to go through all these processes, or someone selling real estate, you go through all these negotiations, these things that don't follow a simple, A, B, C model, or, screw a screw, it's something kind of creative thinking happening. That, and like you're saying, when Chat GPT-7 is building Chat GPT-8, that's when we're really in trouble, right? Because that's when the market's gonna, like right now, again, you have the assembly line worker, he's out of a job, but guess what? New jobs are created.
Yeah.
Now people can code or whatever. But when it gets to the point to where, jobs are getting demolished and no new ones are getting created, and we're all just slowly watching all the white collar and thinking jobs go away and get replaced by some, algorithm.
So let me ask a question, because Joe, you touched on something, and I want to direct this right to Mher, because it goes to, we're talking about real estate here, all right? And I've never done commercial real estate, but I've bought and sold my share of houses, okay? But when people are looking, they're looking at price per square foot and what the comps are, and they're crunching numbers and things like that. But then when they start doing negotiation and they start, figuring out how much I really want to pay, you know, a lot of this is instinct and supposition, okay? That an AI engine, where is it going to start getting its instinctual, I know what the numbers say, but I'm seeing this and I just get a good feeling about this. I'm kind of wondering, what your take on that.
Totally.
Yeah. So we actually speak about this in our circles, right? Because real estate's one of those industries where technology hasn't disrupted our industry yet, right? It's a tried and true type of industry. It's been around for thousands of years. People have always built stuff and lived in it and used structure. And is AI going to impact that in any way? Like, if anything, maybe lease drafting, right? But that's more for attorneys, right? And what attorney doesn't use a template anyway and just fill in the blank? They all do it anyway. That's what Rocket Lawyer really is, right? That's what that entire company is based off of. I think real estate will see blockchain integration before AI integration, I believe, just because of title searching, being able to link titles to certain people. I think that's we're going to see that much sooner than AI, because it's going to get to a point where, AI might be able to pull comps, but there's already programs out there that automatically generate comparables. So, because that's a very easy data set to pull, and it's still, you still have to do it manually for certain things, depending on, and because it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? The data it pulls is only as good as the data that people manually type in and input. So there's always going to be breaks in that system because of that. But I think blockchain is going to be what real estate is going to see in terms of the technology front much sooner than AI.
Well, yeah, I mean, like another good example is, again, I'm only dealing in residential, but if I look at Zillow and Redfin and Realtor.com and Trulia and whatever else there might be, what they're doing is they're coming up with their estimates. It's not really an AI estimate. They're just crunching numbers. And again, a perfect example is, I have a little place that's on a lake here. Okay, but that is certainly not taken into account, even though it's in the record for my house, because I know what my house can get on the market because I've had people come and make me unsolicited offers. Okay, and that's not being captured because the data is not captured properly in those tools. So just like you said, it's only as good as the data that goes in, and that subjectivity, AI is so far away from doing anything like that right now.
Yeah, there's so much involved in it, right? And what is a proper negotiation going to take? What if there's a retrade for some specific reason? What if HVAC system goes out, or a lease lapses or something? There's so many different components to it,
Right.
and it's going to be difficult. I mean, and that's, as entrepreneurs, right? That, like, these are the fears I have, right? I can't see that future, and that worries me, right? Because I'm trying to figure out in my head, how can this happen? How can this disruption happen so I don't get caught up in the headwind of it? Because disruption, people lose jobs to disruptions. People in entire industries could change or go away. How am I going to deflect that? And I can't see that future. And maybe it's because I don't understand AI enough. Maybe I don't understand the true capabilities of it. When Rodrigo said, seven's going to build eight, it kind of, that just blew my mind, because that's at a point where I didn't even fathom yet. And that's probably when real
Well,
estate's going to get
well,
impacted by AI.
so let me just say something about that real quick, because Rodrigo had a very good point. And I don't know if it's going to be 7 or GPT-7 and GPT-8. It might be GPT-70 and GPT-80. But the other thing is, going back to, I don't know if you've seen the movie I, Robot. Okay, it was a Will Smith movie a while back. But essentially, when the robots are building the robots and the robots are setting them up, there also need to be a whole set of governing laws in there that people have to put in place so that things, even though the movie was a little crazy, so that things are going to, take a direction that we want. Because another thing about AI is you can ask it a question and you're going to get some really freaky off the wall answer, because something in the model somewhere went a little bit off course. It's just like, I worked on the IBM Jeopardy project years ago, and I mean, oh my God, we asked it a question about presidents and it came up with the answer of a penny, because somehow Lincoln wound up in there when we wound up chasing down the errors in the models. And the models are really what give AI its power. And that's the most fragile thing that gets built and operated on right now. So yes, it's definitely something that's making a lot of strides, and it's kind of, at an increasing pace, but it's still got a long ways to go.
I think there has to be more formality and uniformity in every industry across the board for it to get to where it needs to be. And I think it's going to take other technology to get it there, like blockchain. Because once things are on the blockchain, things get registered faster. And I think that's the movement forward. AI is where it is today because other technology has carried it to this place. But I do think other avenues have to progress for it to get to that next level.
Sure.
But again, I'm not in tech.
You,
I just sell buildings.
Yeah, and those topics around the the on iRobot, those are the Asimov laws, which is the first laws of robotics is do no harm and do not harm your creator. So, and all of these laws and all of these steps are being taken care by all of the organization. Microsoft, has definitely, they launched a Chat GPT, their Bing version of Chat GPT, and they had these problems where they created their AI was hallucinating. So this is a real problem. But I would also make everybody aware that this is really not a totally different problem than, for example, when the Google and the web searches came along. So, people are saying, oh, ChatGPT, you can ask ChatGPT how to build a bomb. Well, people can already Google how to build a bomb. And there are safeguards that were built in search engines, the same way safeguards are being built into AI engines to prevent misutilization of the technology. Now, is it perfect? Absolutely not. It's built by humans. Therefore, by definition, it is not perfect. So there will be a lot of trial and errors. I'm pretty sure that there will be some very notable media news about how ChatGPT was used for evil and some news where it was used for good. And this is probably always the same thing with all the technologies. Every time there is a new technology, we always have the same questions of can this be used for evil? Is this going to eliminate all the jobs? And we are going to adapt. Society will adapt, and our civilization will adapt to artificial intelligence, and it will become part of our society. And for example, one very interesting job is the prompt engineer. If you Google now, and there are jobs for prompt engineer, which are people that are trained and know how to talk and how to make an AI work. So on that aspect, I actually remain fairly bullish and confident that, we will adapt. And the problem is where people refuse to adapt, where people refuse to learn new skills and refuse to be further educated. The thing about, oh, my dad has a job doing the same thing for 50 years, that is gone. I mean, that is not the future anymore. You will have to reinvent yourself every 20 years or every decade. You need to learn new skills. And I think AI is going to further accelerate that reality.
Exactly what you said. Everything has been an evolution. It's not going to be, we turn around and all of a sudden half the jobs are gone because of this. It's going to be an evolution. And I think it's going to be a faster evolution than than a lot of others, but I think it's going to be slower. And, one of the things is something new like this comes out. It's this big, bright, shiny thing, and everyone is trying to figure out how to, quite frankly, make money with it, either by trying to become an expert before it's ready, or by making you scared of it, okay, and trying to advise you on it, and it's kind of just like, don't panic, okay? It's coming, it's going to happen, and just, learn and adapt.
Hey Joe, I'm curious, and if my memory's off on this, then it could be, but I think you're doing quite a bit of work internationally, maybe in Africa and other places like that. My memory's not off. If I'm not off, I'm curious. It doesn't have to be Chat GPT, by the way, or anything or AI, but just in general, technology abroad and international. Where are you seeing opportunity, or like what excites you?
So yeah, I am doing a lot of stuff.
Good. I'm glad my
Africa.
memory wasn't off. I didn't want to put you on the spot for a question that was irrelevant. So, all right, same
No.
question. Go.
Yeah. Well, I would say Africa. That's what I'm most excited about in particular, and then a few places in Central and South America, Uruguay, El Salvador have some interesting technology opportunities. El Salvador in particular, but for me, it's Africa, and kind of like what Mher was saying before. Like blockchain is going to change a lot of stuff with real estate. Yeah, absolutely. And Africa is the continent right now where blockchain is really getting adapted quickly. An interesting thing is happening there because they didn't really industrialize in the same way we did, where they built a big power grid and physical infrastructure. They kind of skipped that and started building their infrastructure during the digital age within the last 15, 20 years, really. And so you have a population over there that is really trusting of new technology, and they're adopting it very quickly. For instance, like one interesting statistic is this: more than half the people over there don't have a regular bank account, but they use Web3 apps to do their banking, and stuff like Bitcoin and different altcoins, stuff like that. So for what I do with all this Web3 stuff, Africa is where I just see so much opportunity. So to answer your question, yes, it's really happening a lot over there, and it's happening everywhere. To really, there's not a country where it isn't happening, but Africa is just a place where I see an enormous amount of potential growth and room for upside.
Joe, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Without getting too crazy geeky, what kind of things are they doing, over, in Africa or any of these other places with something like blockchain? I mean, obviously
Banking's an interesting
okay,
one.
aside from banking, I'm just wondering, because banking, we understand that one. I'm just wondering where else they're, because we say blockchain is, blossoming, and I'm trying to figure out what other places they are.
Well, so what I mean by banking, I don't mean it in the sense that we think of banking here. The banking they're doing over there is all on the blockchain, and it stuff like microfinance, where you'll have like individual citizens that'll invest, $2 to $20 into a family farm somewhere,
Right.
and you have these micro loans and community financing,
Okay.
and it's
So
amazing.
it's more than just building a banking infrastructure based on this electronic immutable ledger. They're actually building, almost going to say, commerce on it.
It's almost like building, Adam Smith's like best dream come true, where you just have all these voluntary associations popping up between citizens from on these like really small levels. Like I said, I mean, you'll see investments from people that are like, I mean, at $2.
Right.
And, you'll have someone who owns, well, there's one area where there's just like enormous potential is agriculture.
Sure.
So you don't have the kind of farming over there like you have here, where you have like all big corporate farms and then basically no more family farms. It's actually the opposite. So you'll have a small family farm where, it's grandma, parents, and kids that go out and, they're raising potatoes and chickens or whatever. And it's, they're on a half an acre, and, they produce enough to go sell at their local market, but they need to buy a tractor. So they'll go on one of these Web3 dApps, They'll put on what they need. Hey, we need a tractor and enough, and $200 for fuel for the next month. And then 50 people will go on there and do a bunch of micro loans to finance it.
Got it.
And then those 50 people make their money back by them paying their loan back on that DAP. And so you're getting people who get returns as high as 50, 60%, again, on micro loans. So, they're investing $10 and they make 15 back.
And I think that
it's amazing.
I think that's a perfect example of some of these current events, giving birth to I'll call it industries that never existed before. So jobs are going to change, from
Completely.
Yeah. So no, thank you. I like that.
Yeah, actually, Dave, I added you as a friend. Add me. I'd like to talk with you guys.
Yeah,
more.
absolutely.
Rodrigo, Mher, all you guys.
100%.
Sounds good.
Oh man, we normally keep these about an hour, give or take a couple minutes either way. So normally about this time and again, we do this every week. So I'd love to have everyone back on, of course, as time allows for you guys. But me and Chirag will be here, that's for sure. And Chirag's on it on sending the email invite. So I guess let's go around. Any last words? Any last comments? Any last thoughts as we kind of wrap this up? But I don't want to cut it short. But anything else on anybody's mind?
Yeah, can I ask one broad-based question?
Absolutely.
I'm probably the youngest guy here. So, the last big recession we had in like '08, I was still in high school. And, but that we're in a unique time where not only are we going to be entering some sort of economic turbulence, the breadth of it, I think, is everyone has their own opinion on it, but we're also entering that environment with a rise in just technology that was just unfathomable 5 years ago, right? Like AI in this regard is regarded like what Chat GPT wasn't like 5 years ago. It was like sci-fi. Today it exists, and with all these new layoffs coming, especially in the tech side of it, the things that are actually driving the U.S. based economy. I mean, is there any other point in history where we can kind of point to kind of look for some sort of playbook for this? Because it is unique, I think.
Well, I'll decide, buckle up. It's going to be a rough ride, but it's also been a rough ride in 2008 when it crashed, in the early 2000 when there was a tech boom, 97, what was a Black Monday or what was it, was it called? The OPEC crisis in the 60s, and of course the Great Depression. So, these things are cyclical, and I would say that I'm jealous of your youth, but on the other hand, we've seen this before. So that's why I stay very confident, because it always seems very daunting and very difficult, and everything is being turned upside down when you are experiencing it. But, having those gray hairs on the top of your head, you kind of look at these situations and go like, I've seen this before, and maybe the playbook is not exactly the same, but you kind of like, okay, we got to buckle up. We got to take the lessons from the past and have confidence that we will adapt. The society has always adapted. When the first cars came along, obviously it was very catastrophic because, well, no more horses. What will that do to the horse industry? So these things happen, are cyclical, and I think our society will still go on, and we will adapt. In 5 years from now, we'll be talking about something else, because AI is part of our normal daily life.
Couldn't have said it better. Well, thank you guys, because I need to go anyway. So thank you, and I really appreciate everyone's time. And it's a great talk.
Dave,
Best of luck,
Great,
everyone.
great talk. Have a great evening, everybody.
Well, have a great. Thanks everyone for tuning
Thanks,
in.
everyone.
Do these once a week, so appreciate all of you. Hope you all have a great evening, and we'll be back Thursday 4 p.m. PST again. So
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Ciao,
See you guys
everybody.
next week. Take care.
have a good one. Bye.